Hello, I'm Reverend Dr. William J. Barber II, co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign and president of Repairs of the Breach. And today we are here for the second Moral Monday of the 100 days of Moral Monday, first 100 days Moral Monday for the healing of the nation. And we are here today and we are serious. We are not playing. These are serious times. Let me make it clear, as my friend Mary Kay Henry is here and Reverend Dr. Liz Theo Harris and Saru Jaraman are here, and people from all over the country. 62 million people make less than a living wage, a wage of $15 an hour. It's past time for 15 in a union. It's past time for one fair wage. This is the thing we want the media to understand. The fight to raise the minimum wage to a living wage to 15 is as important as the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. For Black people, it's been 0 to 400 years it took us to get to 725. We can't wait any longer. People in Appalachia can't wait any longer. Poor white people, brown people, we cannot wait any longer, and we won't be silent anymore. We want you to be very clear of why we're here. Mary Kay?
Amen, Reverend Barber. I'm proud to stand with One Fair Wage, the Fight for 15 and a Union, and the Poor People's Campaign in demanding an immediate action by our federal government in the rescue plan to include the $15 minimum wage and elimination of the sub-minimum tipped wage and union rights for all.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. And fight for 15, you're right in there. We mean fight for 15, non-violently, it's truth and justice, but this is a fight and it must happen right now and we must win. Reverend Liz Theo Harris.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here, and thanks everybody for joining us. We have folks all over the country today, from West Virginia, from Illinois, from Colorado, from Arizona, from New York, from California, and from our own capital, Washington, D.C. It's important for us to hear why we need 15 immediately for all workers, including tip workers. It's important for us to know everybody must be in, nobody out. And we need union rights, the right to organize, and the right to make right what is not yet right. And so it's my honor now to introduce the director of One Fair Wage, one of the powerful partners that we're coming together here for the Moral Monday on Raise the Wage. Saru Jayaraman, thank you so much for being with us, and it's great to be here.
Glad you're with us, Saru.
Thank you so much, Reverend Barber, Reverend Liz, Mary Kay. It's great to be in partnership with all of you putting on this National Day of Action for Moral Monday. As was mentioned, I am the president of One Fair Wage. We represent about 240,000 workers across the country who are mostly service workers, tipped workers, who still get a federal minimum wage of $2.13 an hour. So as horrible as the $7.25 wage is, imagine living on $2.13 an hour. As Reverend Barber said, we can't wait any longer. The time is now. It is a COVID emergency. And I just want to remind us that the last time that there was a depression of this scale, we got the minimum wage as a result of it in the New Deal. And now we have another depression, and it's time to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour for everybody. So we're going to go now to see people all over the country who are part of One Fair Wage and SEIU and the Poor People's Campaign in multiple cities. And we're going to start at our nation's capital in Washington, D.C. Let's go live to the folks in Washington, D.C. and hear from the workers and restaurant owners and allies who are standing together. So can we cue to the Washington, D.C. folks?
Pat, we need you to unmute.
Hello, Pat, Washington, D.C. Good to see you. We want to hear you.
And right now, I'm going to introduce our very powerful key speaker, Akioma.
Thank you, Nikia. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. It is way past time to end the sub-minimum wage for tip workers. This legacy of slavery must end. It exploits our workforce that is mainly built up of mostly women and people of color. Living off of barely $2 an hour plus tips forces us to endure and even tolerate inappropriate customer behavior, since tips make up the bulk of our pay. It's kind of crazy because during the pandemic, we were asked to do and provide more of a service by enforcing COVID-19 protocols like social distancing and mask rules in a high-risk environment, when tips were down 50 to 75%. Many of us workers that were furloughed and even laid off still are ineligible for unemployment because, again, our sub-minimum wage, including the tips, were too low to qualify. Plus, you add in how complicated and difficult to navigate the unemployment system is, us tip workers never really had a chance. Now let me tell you a little bit about me. My name is Ifomi Zimako, and I have been a hospitality professional for over 5 years in D.C. and its surrounding areas. As restaurant workers, serving people is our passion. And during the pandemic, we did exactly that, plus so much more. In order to build a more resilient service industry, we must raise the wages of the people who feed our communities to ensure that they can even afford to feed their own families. It's been heartbreaking to hear what some of my colleagues are experiencing during this turbulent period in our lives. We have a chance to fix all of that. During this time of reconstruction, in order for us to build back better, we need one fair wage, a full minimum wage, plus tips on top of that.
Yes.
We trust President Biden and Vice President Harris to remember that every human is essential. Sorry.
Vice President.
Thank you very much for endorsing One Fair Wage in your platform. We appreciate you both and are extremely excited to welcome in this new administration. Our support is ready as you fulfill your promises to build back better for us all. And that includes passing a $15 minimum wage with tips on top. Thank you, everyone. Now say it with me. When we fight, we win.
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 Right.
When we fight, we win.
When we fight, we win.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much, DC. That's wonderful.
We want to also ask that when people are chanting today, after they say when we fight, we win, we say forward together, not one step back. Make sure we add that in.
All right. We'll let people know. Forward together, not one step back, for sure. Let's switch over to hear from folks in New York City.
Microphone is on.
Let's hear from the folks in New York City.
You're on.
We are here in New York City with restaurant workers and restaurant owners, thanking Chuck Schumer for the Raise the Wage Act, and also encouraging him to stay strong and keep his pockets in check and not let this bill pass without all workers in it, all workers in this country getting $15 an hour, including tip workers. Passing this would be huge. It would do away with 150 years of subhuman labor, of subservient labor. There are people in this country making $2.13 an hour by their employer. They're getting paid that much by their employer, and they're expected to live entirely off of it. This bill would change that. We are thanking Chuck Schumer. We need him to stand strong, and he brought the
Mariachi, son de mi tierra.
Son de mi tierra. For a serenata. This is Natasha, a worker in New York City. She's a bartender on the Electric Street.
Hi, my name is Natasha. I'm here today out in the freezing cold because there are so many workers, service industry professionals in New York City who every single day to make a living have to work out in temperatures below 32 degrees. We are here today because we are not the priority for vaccines, yet we have to expose ourselves every single day to people who do not wear masks. We have to be closer to people than 6 feet just to make a living, and many people across the country only make $2.13 an hour for that. This is an absolute unacceptable injustice, and we, as the service industry professionals of New York and America, deserve the respect to actually make a fair minimum wage. And we hope that Schumer stands strong and supports this and includes restaurant workers in the Raise the Wage Act. Thank you.
Yay!
Un par de ojitos negros, cielito lindo de contrabando. De la sierra morena, cielito lindo, vienen bajando. Un par de ojitos negros, cielito lindo de contrabando.
Thank you so much, New York City. We're gonna move on to the next city, but we really appreciate folks in New York City being with us. And Reverend Barbara, do you wanna just lead us again in the forward together, not one step back? Is that right? As we switch over now to West Virginia, where our dear Senator Manchin. I'm sorry, Reverend Barbara, did you want to lead us?
Oh, I just said forward together, not one step.
Not one step back.
That's
in.
right.
Yes.
Forward
Nobody
together.
in, nobody out. When we fight, we win. And we're going to a fighting place now, West Virginia. I'm telling you, they are all over it.
That's right. So let's.
Hi guys. My name's Brianna. I'm here in front of Joe Manchin's office in Charleston, West Virginia. And he's right. West Virginia's got a dark and bloody history of our people being treated terribly. And right now, with our essential workers out on the front lines in these small coal towns with no space in the hospitals, we need that $15 more than ever, especially our service workers, our restaurant workers. They are on the front lines. West Virginia is hemorrhaging young people out of this state. We don't have enough money to live here. We have to go and find our way elsewhere, even though we would rather be in our home. So this $15 would mean everything to us.
Well, thank you so much, Brianna. When we fight, we win. Forward together, not one step back. Thank you so much for being out there. We really appreciate it. I think we're going to switch now to, if Chicago's not with us yet, to San Francisco, where we see a large crowd in front of Senator Feinstein's office. Hi, San Francisco. Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you. Hello, the world. My name is Khalid. I am here in San Francisco with restaurant workers, restaurant owners. We have Brandon from Mr. Jews, and we have folks from the Poor People's Campaign, and we're all restaurant consumers, and we're standing out here in San Francisco, One Post Street, in front of Senator Dianne Feinstein's office to thank her for agreeing to vote on raising the minimum wage and to just call on all her colleagues in Congress to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And I want to introduce my friend Mario, who is an Oakland-based restaurant worker, to say a few words.
Hey out there. Basically, I just wanted to touch on a couple of points, that being trust and disconnect within the industry. You know, for me, it begins and ends with trust. When it all comes down to it, you know, the trust that we put into managers and owners to pay us fair wages for the services we provide, you know, all the way to the trust, you know, we put into local governments at large when it comes to enacting and securing labor policies that protect all workers. You know, that trust runs deep in the restaurant industry. I can tell you from firsthand experience, you know, I've trusted management and owners when it really shouldn't have when it comes to receiving fair wages. You know, countless times in countless restaurants, you know, the story's the same with the service workers. They simply can't make enough at one job, so they're working at least 2, if not 3 jobs to support themselves here in the Bay Area. You know, and with at least 50% of one's tips coming from a mysterious tip distribution algorithm that management sets up, you know, that simple fact puts the worker even farther from the process of getting paid fairly. They're sort of left in the dark. You know, that trust transfers to management, who distributes tips largely based on how much we get paid hourly. You know, the pandemic has upended things so critically for service workers and provided scarce jobs in restaurants and bars that have seemed to survive thus far. You know, this desperation for jobs and getting income is going to make the exchange of income and output even more foggier. People are going to be even more desperate than they were before for jobs, and this means accepting unfair wages, unfortunately, and lower wages in general because of this desperation. Our industry got uprooted overnight, and many of us, when filing our unemployment, could not get the full weekly amount due to the nature of the service worker tax return. Many tips to dishwashers, bussers, and barbacks are actually not reported. This has caused a large number of us to rely on the federal government. You know, unfortunately, you know, we give this trust to those in power in the name of our best interests. You know, a standardized, livable minimum wage isn't much to ask, you know, and I think it would supplement the lower wages that are most definitely going to be part of the industry in the coming months and even years. To have trained economists and specialized labor commissions included in the conversation about the minimum wage would be more than welcomed by most. You know, the only country in the industrialized world that relies on politicians instead of trained economists and labor experts. We need large-scale wage implementation changes just to account for the lopsided past 30 years of cost of living and paid wages ratio. Put simply, we're at a breaking point in this country when it comes to people drowning and keeping their heads above water. And nowhere is this more apparent than the restaurant industry. It can't sustain and will not sustain as long as we have organizations such as One Fair Wage involved. You know, it's not even a solution at this point. It's simply the best jumping off point that needs to happen as soon as possible to keep people from starving. You know, when I was asked to share my experience of getting taken advantage of or witnessing firsthand the struggles and plights of restaurant workers, it depressed me that I actually had to think about it for a full day. In the future, I don't want to think about it at all. I want to try to find instances. Until then, the fire remains lit. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mario. Thank you, San
When I say people, y'all say power. People. When I say 15, y'all say an hour. 50. Si se puede. Si se puede.
San Francisco, not forward together, not one step back. Can you say that, Khaled? Forward together, not one step back.
Forward together, not one step back. Forward together, not one step back. Forward together, not one step back.
Right. We thank you so much. We are moving forward together with One Fair Wage, SEIU, and the Poor People's Campaign. We're so thrilled to be doing this together. And we want to make sure everybody's sharing this on your social media. Please share on your social media this live stream. We have people all over the country, and we're headed next to Denver, Colorado, where Governor Hickenlooper, now Senator Hickenlooper, has not yet signed on to the $15 minimum wage, Raise the Wage Act, but we know he will. So let's switch over to Aaron in Denver.
How you guys doing? Bear with me one moment. Get you switched over so we can see there. And there he is. Boom.
Hello.
You're good.
Johnny down in Denver. We have Whitney here to speak. Sorry, the turnout's not that bad, but they turned us away a little bit. Can you hear me?
Yeah. You're okay.
We wish we had more people out here, but everybody needs fair wages. There's no sense in paying people nothing. It's been slave labor for far too long. There's people working far too many jobs to just make ends meet. And right now, nobody has the money to do anything. And we have people coming after us for debts that we owe, that we can't pay. We are incurring more and more charges on top of charges for things that we can't get paid because we have no money. It's impossible to get unemployment. That's another thing that's going on right down the street. So there's not a lot of people here. We have Whitney speaking here in just a little bit.
Perfect.
She'll be up here. Is it right now?
Yep. It's good.
I can't hear anything. Okay.
Hi, Whitney. Welcome.
Hi, folks. My name is Whitney Aris, and I own the Preservery here in Denver. We're a full-service restaurant and bar. And I'm here today in the freezing cold on my only day off because I'm very passionate about this issue of fair wages. It wasn't that long ago that I too was working for minimum wage as a line cook.
Button up your jacket.
And I know what it's like to be a service worker. I've been in this industry for a long time. And I'm frankly sick and tired of business owners saying that they can't afford to pay their people. This entire industry has been built on the backs of low-wage workers. And it's not fair for us to continue to insist on not paying them a living wage. We can charge more for our food. We can negotiate costs. We can pay our people. It's not too much to ask. Oh, okay.
You're good. You're good.
This issue has been in the media lately a lot, and I keep hearing these different accounts of business owners who say, I'll lose jobs, I'll lose people if I have to pay them more. Run your businesses better. We can do this, and it's not easy. It's going to be hard. Great change and great progress can only come with growing pains. We have to accept that we're not paying our people enough, and we must do better. That's all I have to say.
Thank you so much, Whitney. Great to be with you. Hopefully your senator hears you. Senator Hickenlooper was a business owner himself, owned a brewery. We know that he, like you, can come around to actually realizing we need $15 now. Thank you so much. We're going to switch over to Phoenix now, where also we've got two senators, Senator Kelly and Senator Sinema, who have not yet signed on.
Everybody get ready.
We're so happy to see you, Phoenix.
Yeah.
Can't take it no more. Can't take it no more.
Can't take it no more. Can't take it no more. Can't take it no more. Can't take it no more. Can't take it no more. My name is Jacob Cordes. I'm an organizer out here with One Fair Wage. We are out here with Arizona Jews for Justice. We are out here with the Poor People's Campaign, and we are out here with Lucha right now to get that sub-minimum wage removed, to get the minimum wage raised to $15 an hour with tips on top. We have brought out a worker, Haley. Haley, ready to go ahead?
I'm ready to go.
Go ahead.
My name is Haley, and I am a tipped worker. here with everybody, and thank you so much for showing us solidarity. I am not living through this anymore, and we're making our demands today. We're demanding the sub minimum wage be raised to $15 with tips on top.
Come on now. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much in Phoenix. We're so happy to be with you. I don't know if Chicago joined us. I know we were having some tech difficulties from Chicago where it's super cold, but I know the folks in Chicago are out there.
Aquí estoy.
Well, okay, great. Go ahead, Adriana. Are you calling from Chicago?
Sí.
Okay. We had a group of workers out in front of Senator Duckworth and Senator Durbin's offices in Chicago. I don't know if they were able to join us. But if not, we wanted to say that we've got workers all over the country. And we'll get to Adriana in a minute. I know we were going to have different people speak first. We were going to hear from all the actions going on all over the country. But I think that the Chicago action was not able to join us via live stream, but we know they're out there in the cold. So I now want to turn it back over to Reverend Barber. We're so happy to be, united all over the country, calling for $15 with tips on top, together with our partners. So I'm going to turn it back over to Reverend Barber.
So I ruin everybody that's on. This is so powerful. We've got tens of thousands of people online. I want folk to understand that. And we've got actions, right, Rob, for people to call. You can see it on the screen, how to make these calls. We've got to push our Congress people. We've got to make our voices heard. They have to see our faces. I want to say what I have to say. I'm so moved today. I'd rather, for Liz and Mary Kay and others, I want to adjust to the end and say what I have to say. But before anybody, we need West Virginia to talk to us. And Liz, would you mind if I give my time to West Virginia? I'm doing an assist, like in basketball, I'm assisting. I'm throwing assists because I know Pamela and them can dunk it. See, so I'm assisting. I'm going to give my time now over to West Virginia. And then after that, Liz, you come on, and Mary Kay, I'll come on kind of at the end. Rob, fix this, work it out. You know how we do. We make the adjustment. But I want to hear from the folk on the front line. So I'm giving it up to West Virginia.
Pamela, welcome. I know Amy Jo is going to join us later, and so we'll bring her on then. But Pamela Garrison from West Virginia, if you would go ahead and bring greetings to the Moral Monday today.
Yeah, then we can go to Liz and then come back to Amy Jo.
Hello, everyone. I'm Pam from Southern West Virginia, which you can probably tell from my Southern drawl. Here in West Virginia, we're used to a fight. We've had to fight to have our work not took advantage of, and for a decent wage paid for many, many years. So we've got the fight in us. They call this a rescue package, but yet they want to take the most important part of the rescue out of it. If you want to get our economy going, then you give our people a decent wage. Don't take the main part out of a rescue package. Yes, we need help with the COVID. We need the whole 9 yards. We need the whole thing. If you give people a minimum wage, if you give them a living wage, we can fix the holes in our roofs. We can buy get us a vehicle that we can keep on the road. If you've never had to deal with that, you wouldn't even know you can't even comprehend those kind of things, to sit and worry of how I'm going to keep a car on the road to be able to get to work. And our legislatures, they play games. It's kind of a slap in our face when we sit back and we watch them bail out corporations. We watch them bail out banks, but yet we're told our work don't matter. We're essential workers, they call us, and put us in the most dangerous positions there is, jobs nowadays through this COVID. But our work ain't worth a fair wage, a day's wage. Are you kidding me? And this is going to take all of us, people. It's going to take us letting them hear our voices and know. We are tired of scraping, scrounging, being hungry. We are tired of being the last on the list. We all want our voices heard, and I need every one of y'all. I need my brothers and sisters from every point in West Virginia. I've got more of my sisters coming on. I've had one from Charleston. I got another one coming on here pretty soon from up north. And every part of this state. And we are tired of it. We are tired of being the ones that are told our jobs don't matter, but yet we're essential. So people, I just want y'all to join us, because this is about our country. When you lift, there will be 350,000 West Virginians lifted up just with a minimum wage raise. And our economy, we have been stagnant for years. It took us 10 years to get up to $5 an hour and another 10 to get up to $7. It is time. It is past time, people. And Reverend Barbara and every one of y'all, I want y'all to know we're here. We're not leaving, and we're not leaving the tip workers behind. We're bringing y'all with us. Y'all deserve a decent pay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Amen. Right?
Here clearly, Liz.
Yeah, so it is important for us to be here today, and let us hear these words from Pamela and all of the chants and the stories from the cities and states across the country. We're gathered here indeed, Pamela, to make our voices heard. We have to make our voices heard. As we sing in the Poor People's Campaign, that song, beautiful song by Miss Yara Allen, somebody's been hurting our people. It's gone on far too long. And we can never be silent anymore, right? And we know that we need to raise the minimum wage, and we need to raise it immediately, not over some years, not over some decades, not over some period of time. We need it now. We know we need to eliminate the sub-minimum wage. We have to make everybody in, nobody out. And that means recognizing this legacy of slavery, this legacy of discrimination, of trying to pit workers against each other and leave some out. We cannot allow that to happen. And we know we have to defend the rights of all workers, to form and to join unions and to organize. We know it's immoral. We know it's wrong to deny living wages, especially at this moment when everyone's talking. We see all those Super Bowl ads about unity, about healing, about banding together through difficult times. Well, what we have heard over and over again, whether it's from SEIU workers, whether it's from One Fair Wage workers, whether it's from other low-wage workers, essential workers who are not being able to get the essentials of life, is stop just calling us essential. Stop just saying that we're so important, and make us have the rights that we deserve and that we need. And that is what we're doing here today. We're talking about raising that wage and making sure everybody is included. In this moment, over the past 10 to 11 months, the richest people in our society have made $1 trillion. And yet, 45% of families who have $40,000, who make $40,000 or less a year, have lost income. We have tens of millions of people on the verge of eviction. We have people with their utilities being cut off, and moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas and cousins and brothers trying to decide, what bills do we pay when we do not have enough resources? And when you hear about the debt collectors and you hear about not being able to get health care, well, we can raise wages. And what we know is that when you lift from the bottom, when you make sure that everybody has enough to get along, to get around, to be able to get by, that everybody in our society rises. We cannot believe these lies that if we raise the wages, that it means that people are going to lose work. We cannot believe the lies that if we pay all workers, including tip workers, a living wage, that it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt our society. A society that allows 62 million workers to make less than the living wage is a society in crisis, and it does not have to be this way. James 5 from the Holy Bible says, The wages you have failed to pay your workers cry out against you. Their cries have heard and reached the ears of God. We have crying workers across the country that are a part of this Moral Monday and across the nation that are a part of this campaign and part of SEIU and part of a powerful force of people rising up who say we need to be free. We need to be able to have the rights that we deserve. And so we're going to organize to make them so. We are going to be calling all of our senators, putting the pressure on, turning the heat up. It is cold here in New York City. It is cold in other parts across this country, but we're turning the heat up on our politicians to say, you have to work for us. And we need living wages. We need 15 and a union for all workers, and starting now. And so it's powerful to be here with everybody because we know what needs to happen, and we have the leadership of those that are working low wage jobs, that are essential workers, but not getting the essentials and being paid expendable wages. And we are going to organize until we win all of our rights. And so it's powerful to be here with you, Reverend Barber, and with Saru and with Mary Kay, because we are indeed moving forward together and not one step back.
Amen. And Saru, Liz, you are so right. You are so right. And the cries have gone up. Even God hears the cries of the people. Saru, if Mary Jo is not up here, Amy Jo is not on, just go to Mary Kay and work with her. Then we'll come back to Amy Jo when Rob lets us on, and I'll just close out at the end. I just want to hear everybody else. I want people, the workers, to talk today. It's time to stand up. So, Saru.
Thank you so much, Reverend Barber. And we're so honored to have Mary Kay Henry, president of SEIU International, joining us. Mary Kay.
I'm glad to be with you, Saru. And I was so thrilled and invigorated by the round of cities that you just took us to and the number of one fair wage leaders all across this country demanding an end to the sub-minimum wage and demanding 15 and tip wages on top for everybody in this nation. Everybody in, nobody out, forward together, not one step back. And I agree so much with Pamela from West Virginia and Reverend Liz Theo Harris. Millions of essential workers have been putting their lives on the line to keep our country fed, running, and cared for during this pandemic. And each and every one of those essential workers should be paid a wage that matches the sacrifice that they've been making every day. And if you're going to be deemed essential, just like Pan said, we need more than cards and television ads and thank yous and pots and pans being banged. We need to be respected, protected, and paid. And that means at least a $15 minimum wage, and we need it now. It is a moral imperative because, as we've heard from leaders all across this country, it's the single most powerful measure that our government can take to reduce racial pay inequity. It would boost the incomes of 62 million Americans, as Reverend Barber has told us, including 25% of Latino workers and nearly 30% of Black workers. It means that tens of millions of Americans can put food on the table. It means that moms and dads can pay the rent and buy asthma inhalers for their children. It means a mother who's working on the front lines of this pandemic in a nursing home, when she comes home and takes off her uniform and showers before she dares touch her children, can also keep the lights on, buy school supplies, and maybe even save for the future. We know this action will improve the lives of millions of families, white, Black, Latino, Asian, Native, and newcomer in communities all across this country. Not only is it the right thing to do, but Saru, you made the case, it makes economic sense. The rich and powerful have always rigged the rules in their favor and are going to use the same old arguments for why they can't pass a $15 minimum wage. But in a pandemic where the world's largest corporations saw their profits jump by $109 billion compared to pre-pandemic profit, we know their arguments are simply excuses. And that's why it's so critical that everyone on this live stream today Make a phone call to your congressperson and senator. Show up, send postcard, tell your family, friends, and neighbors. We have to be loud in making the demand, because we know that when working people have money in their pockets, they spend it in their communities on the things they need. They support small businesses, and that boosts the local economy for everyone. A $15 minimum wage is critical to building back better. And we know the Biden-Harris administration wants to do it, and that a $15 wage is just a start. We are not going to stop till this tipped minimum is eliminated, and till every worker has the right to form a union and bargain for all the things that make a good life possible: benefits, paid time off, affordable health care, immigration reform, environmental justice. We aren't stopping until every aspect of our lives and the fusion movement that the Poor People's Campaign leads on gets addressed. So let's keep speaking out together. Let's hold our elected officials' feet to the fire. We're going to get this done. And now I want to introduce Adriana Sanchez, a leader in the Fight for 15 in Chicago. Adriana works in McDonald's, and she's going to talk to us about how she has fought for and won higher pay, but that we can't stop until we win 15 and a union for all. Everybody in, nobody left out. And for those of us that don't speak Spanish, you need to go to your globe that looks like at the bottom of your screen and click what English or Spanish. Adriana is going to speak to us in Spanish. Buenos dias, Adriana. Welcome.
Hello, good morning. My name is Adriana. I've worked at McDonald's for 18 years, more or less, and I've been in this fight for 5 or 6 years since I started, and I'm here. I'm still here. I'm not going to give up. I will continue to fight until we win. All of us need to make at least $15 or more because we deserve so. We are essential workers, but we are not treated as so. I personally got sick. They didn't pay me while I had COVID, and that is not fair. Many of my coworkers also got COVID where I work rather, and we did not get paid, none of us. I am going to stay here. I will continue to fight so that we get paid what we deserve. We are essential workers, and we have to be treated as such. Thank you.
Gracias, Adriana. Back to you, Saru.
Thank you. Gracias, Adriana. My dear sister, Mary Kay. Saru, I'm telling you, when we hook up, all of us together, Fight for 15, One Fair Wage, SEIU, Poor People's Campaign, we're going to make history. We're going to come out of this depression, and we're going to do it like they did it back in the 1930s. We're going to be better. And guess what? We got Amy Jo now from West Virginia. Another sister from West Virginia. She wants to say a word, and then we'll take it to you, and y'all let me know when it's close to the end, and I want to say a few things. Amy Jo, where are you?
I'm doing well, Reverend Barber. How are you? I want to apologize. I don't have, my Wi-Fi is not steady enough today to allow me to do video, so I apologize.
We hear your voice.
That's good. So I'm Amy Jo from West Virginia, and when I think about what this $15 an hour minimum wage can do, I'm thinking about our child care providers, who are mainly women in the state of West Virginia, who are working for poverty wages. I'm thinking about the home health aides who take care of our loved ones, who are working for poverty wages. I think about the cashiers and the waitresses, and all I can think is this: if we're going to live in a society that preaches to us that we need to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, then we cannot still be in the same society that tells us that we don't deserve the bootstraps to pull up. And that's how I see this whole thing. You know, I've been told a lot of things in my life when it comes to relying on safety net programs for assistance. And I've been told that people are tired of paying their tax dollars to feed my children, and the things people have said to me in the past have been hurtful and very demeaning. And so I think we need to use that narrative. I mean, if we do $15 an hour, it'll lift millions of people over the poverty line. It'll really, release some of us from being ensnared in that safety net, because the safety net, it doesn't really catch us it ensnares us, and we have a heck of a time getting out of it. And so those are the things that I think about when I think about how a $15 an hour minimum wage would affect the West Virginians. You know, we're blessed here, actually compared to the nation, because our minimum wage is $8.75. And so to a lot of us, that's a blessing because we're not working for that federal minimum wage. But years ago, Workforce put out a study saying that it would require no less than $16 an hour for us just to meet our basic needs. That's not buying anything extra. That's not putting our kids through school. It's not being able to buy birthday presents, right? And so I read a report the other day that said with one child, a 3-person household would make $21 an hour right now to be able to be financially stable. And so those are the conditions of the people here in West Virginia. Thank you.
Back to you, Saru. Forward together, not one step back.
Forward together, not one step back. Thank you so much, Amy Jo and Adriana, Mary Kay, Reverend Barber. I know the local actions, it's so cold where everybody is, that we just want to see them once again before they wrap up out there. So one of the things that we wanted to share and show is that in Washington, D.C. and in many of these cities, you'll see Elena, the essential worker. She's also maybe up on your screen. She is our new Rosie the Riveter. She represents for us essential workers across the country, and all workers are essential. She's an essential worker who is fighting to say we don't need clapping. We don't just need a clap on the back. We need to be paid. We need to be paid a $15 minimum wage with tips on top. And so we've been bringing her out in front of the Capitol and all over the country. And she represents the millions and millions and millions of workers across this country who are working for less than $15 an hour. And in our case, with One Fair Wage, she represents also the 14 million restaurant workers across the country and 6 million tipped workers in the United States who are still working for less than the minimum wage, for a federal minimum wage of $2.13 an hour, which is a literal legacy of slavery, as we've been saying. The first tipped workers in the United States to be paid a $0 wage or a sub-minimum wage were Black workers hired after emancipation. And in many cases, they were actually charged to have positions in hotels and restaurants so they could have the privilege of earning tips from white customers. And we've gone from a $0 wage for Black workers post-emancipation all the way up to $2.13 an hour, a $2 wage increase over 150 years. And over that time period, over that entire time period, this has been a 70% female workforce of women, mostly waitresses, working in IHOPs and Denny's and Olive Gardens across the country, struggling with ridiculously low wages, economic instability, and the highest rates of sexual harassment. And it only got worse during the pandemic. You heard one of the workers in one of the cities talk about unemployment insurance. Most of our folks couldn't get unemployment insurance because they were told that wage of $2 or $3 was too low to qualify for benefits. If the government is telling workers your wages are too low to get benefits, then their wages are too low and they have to be raised now. And then these workers were forced to go back to work to do more, to be public health marshals, enforcing social distancing and mask rules on the very same customers from whom they had to get tips. And millions of women reported that they were asked to remove their masks so men could judge their looks and therefore their tips on that basis. It has become a COVID crisis, and it is why so many small business restaurant owners have joined with us. Hundreds and hundreds of them have joined with us to say, no, this is not the wrong time to raise the minimum wage. This is the right time to raise the minimum wage when millions are suffering. And we can't expect people to come back to work and risk their lives without a full livable minimum wage with tips on top. So we did have a small business owner with us, an independent restaurant owner. Hopefully he's coming back. He had to step away. But before he speaks, I want to let 2 workers from One Fair Wage who've been waiting to speak share their story. Justice from Detroit and Veronica from California. That's the thing about our country. There are 7 states that already pay a full minimum wage with tips on top. One of them is California, and states like Michigan, where the wage is still just above $3. This is why we need the whole country to go to 15. And I'm going to let Justice from Detroit speak first.
This is so powerful, Saru. We got thousands and thousands all over the country and more tuning in.
So hey everybody, my name is Justice, and I've been a restaurant worker for about 10 years now. Right now I'm bartending in Detroit, and working as a tip worker it's been difficult enough before the pandemic. I mean, we're on our feet for 14 hours nonstop.
That's right.
We don't get breaks, and that's just pretty much the norm for front of the house and back of the house. And a lot of people think that, when you think of restaurants, you think of going to these nice high-end places where they're getting big tips, and that, and people that have that luxury, they don't mind that trade-off. But I mean, most of us are not in these big cities. I mean, there's not that many LAs and Chicagos and Miamis and places that are getting those big ticket, tip outs at the end of the day. There's a lot of people working at Denny's and stuff like that, and they're not walking home with all that money. And that's the vast majority of restaurant workers. They're in these rural areas, family style restaurants, and people are making $2-3 maybe, in tips, after working at like a Coney Island or something. So like when you rely on those tips, there's going to be people that are going to pay you as little as possible. I mean, especially now when people are financially strapped and just want to get out. They kind of force the issue a little bit, and it doesn't help that I know in Michigan we just opened back up. Our restaurants were completely closed. We were and we're only at 25% capacity. So I mean, that's because of these mandates, and we have a 10 o'clock curfew. So I work and I base my whole weekly pay off of volume, working from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. That's when we get most of our money on Friday and Saturday night from 10 to 2. I budget my week off of that. That's completely gone now. The hours that we are open, like I said, we can only have a quarter of the capacity. So, I mean, the math, you see quickly, the math doesn't add up. It makes you question whether it's worth taking the risk when the only other alternative is, waiting on unemployment insurance. And we all know that there's been gaps and there's been all kinds of difficulties and uncertainty, and if you're a tip worker, you maybe weren't even able to claim your own tips. You're relying on your employer to claim your tips for you, and you might just now be finding out that that's how they're basing your unemployment payout based off of that, and then you find out that your work wasn't being, your tips weren't being claimed properly, and now you're not getting a fair shake with unemployment. I mean, I applied for unemployment. I had a hard time. I'm not getting mine now. And, my job didn't even open back up since the state opened back up. I ain't getting no stimulus checks. So, I mean, I'm in limbo. So, I mean, it's just a lot of complications that are coming with everything. I mean, and also just, being an African-American in the service industry. There's an expectation that I'm not qualified to make these cocktails and do this and that just because I'm Black. I find myself, before I can start doing my job, I got to convince people that I'm competent in the first place in ways that my white counterparts, or non-Black counterparts don't have to. It's an assumption that they're qualified. You know what I mean? The typical bartender is tattooed, handlebar mustache, whatever, with the apron and all that stuff. But I got 10 years experience doing this stuff. And, I'm well versed in all this stuff, but I find myself having to prove my worth and my, competency, way more often than necessary. And especially during the pandemic, people don't want to wear these masks. They're upset about all these rules that we have to enforce in order for us to even be able to open our doors to these people. The rules do make sense. It is what it is. There's an inconvenience, but I mean, so is the pandemic, completely. People are getting sick and people are dying. And it's not safe for us to be out here working in the first place, being exposed to all this stuff. But it is what we got. It is what it is. We have to do what we have to do to make a couple dollars, even if it's significantly less than what we're used to. That's what we got to do to make sure we have a couple dollars in our pocket to be okay, for the next day. So you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. You don't know if it's going to be worth it, but you can't always wait for unemployment to do what they say they're going to do. I haven't heard from them in weeks. You know what I mean? So we need to professionalize the industry. We need to make people respect what we do. A $15 minimum wage would be a start, just a start. And, we need relief. we need a relief deal for full recovery, man. I mean,
Thank you so
we need to
much.
include a
Yeah.
$15 minimum wage, and we need tips on top.
We hear you. We need 15 now. Not everyone together. No step back. Thank you so much, Justice. Really appreciate it. I know we're running out of time. We really appreciate your voice. We have another worker and a small business owner. We're going to try to wrap it up as quickly as possible. So I just want to let Veronica from California say a few words where we do have one fair wage.
So my name is Veronica, and as Saru said, I am in California. I've been here for the past 2 years. However, prior to this, I was working in restaurants for the past 8 years in New York City. So I have experienced both sides of the coin. We absolutely need to keep the Raise the Wage Act in the plan. Restaurant workers are uniquely positioned in that they are essential workers, but they have some of the least protections. And as Justice said, most of my colleagues have been on and off of unemployment for the past year due to the pandemic. They've run through whatever limited savings that they have, which is already super limited because based on a tip system, in the hospitality industry, it's really unstable and it's hard to plan because you're focusing on your busy and your slow season. And all of that can be rectified by raising the minimum wage and paying workers a livable working wage of $15 an hour plus tips.
Thank you so much, Veronica. I really appreciate it. We also have a small business employer with us, Brian Kaiser, who's owned several restaurants. Thank you, Brian, for joining us.
Hey, Brian.
You're on mute, Brian. There you go.
I think I'm unmuted now, right? Good to see you, Reverend. Good to see you, Saru, and everybody else on this call. I'll be quick, but I own a restaurant called Casalula in New York City. I've been involved in this movement for 5 or 6 years, and I want to congratulate you all on your hard work and the progress we are making. We're not over the finish line yet, but we're a lot closer than we were 5 years ago. So you should all be really proud of your work. I want you to remember that you're going to be faced with lies constantly about what raising wages is going to do to the economy. People say if we raise wages, we're going to lose jobs. Businesses are going to have to close. They're going to cut jobs. And there's no example of this being true. For the entire history of this country, when wages have been raised, the economy has boomed. The best example is in the 90s when minimum wage was last increased, was followed by the largest economic boom since World War II, or since the boom after World War II. It's just not true that raising wages costs jobs. It brings money into the economy, gives money to people who need it and who spend it, and each dollar of increase into the economy gets spent 7 times. So it's good for the economy, not bad for the economy, good for jobs, not bad for jobs when we raise wages. And it's so often that when wages are raised, that tipped employees get left behind. So keep your voices loud, keep being heard, keep contacting your elected officials, and don't let them leave tipped workers behind when the negotiations start to happen. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Brian. I think one of the things to remember is, as much as we're hearing from, even Senator Manchin and others that they're worried about small business, the truth is that small businesses like Brian's restaurant Casalula depend on people being able to consume. And small businesses across the country, even especially in rural places like West Virginia and parts of Arizona, we know that small businesses in those states rely on workers being paid enough to be able to eat out, rely on not just a one-time cash grant from the government, but the ability to consume going forward. So this can really be good for small business in the long run. And we know that this minimum wage is phased in over several years in a way that can work for all of us. So I'm just going to hand it over to Reverend Barber. And before I do, just say thank you, everybody, for joining us. This is such an important moment to remember. This is the right time, not the wrong time. This is the right time to raise the minimum wage when millions of people are starving and small businesses rely on them to get back to work, to be paid enough to consume, and for all of us to enjoy the coming out of this depression that we really need by raising the minimum wage. So thanks, everybody. And Reverend Barberman, I'll let you close.
And Saru, thank you so much. And I'm glad you said that last word, depression, that we were in before COVID. That's the truth we have to tell. The low-wage workers, tip workers, people making less than 15 were already in a kind of depression before COVID. For 143 million poor and low wealth people in this, 140 million poor and low wealth people in this country before COVID, and 250,000 people dying a year. This is deadly. 700 people dying a day from poverty. Many of them were low-wage workers, tip workers, people getting sick unnecessarily, on top of millions of people without health care. We also have to say very clearly, as you all called today, there's some truths we cannot back up on. When people say they're worried about small businesses, ask them, have they voted for universal health care for everybody? Because if they were really worried about small businesses and their costs, they would pass universal health care so that small businesses didn't have to pay that money. If they were really worried about their businesses, they would pay people living wages, because guess what? The people with living wages ain't going to spend the money, and guess what? They're going to spend it back in their businesses. We have to tell the truth in this moment. We cannot get this close and then fall back. We want everybody to take action today. We want everybody calling and telling people to call. We say to President Biden, to Democrats, to Republicans, to senators, to all of them, don't turn your back on 15-hour minimum wage. Listen, 55% of poor and low wealth people voted for this current ticket. 55%. That's the mandate. The mandate is in the people who voted, not in the backslapping of senators and congresspeople. It's the people who voted. And if we turn back now, it will hurt 62 million poor and low wealth people who have literally kept this economy alive, who were the first to have to go to jobs, first to get infected, first to get sick, first to die. We cannot be the last to get relief and the last to get treated and paid properly. Protect us, respect us, and pay us. There also, the truth of the matter is, there can be no domestic tranquility without the establishment of justice. That's not what William Barber says, or Saru says, or Mary Kay says, or Liz says, or these workers. So the Constitution says. Establishment of justice precedes domestic tranquility. And you can only hold domestic tranquility when you promote the general welfare of all people. We know that this reconciliation business is nothing but an excuse. We pulled some records. We got some lawyers to look at it. The fact of the matter is, every time Republicans wanted to pass tax cuts and cut welfare, they used reconciliation. On one time, when the parliamentarian gave them the wrong answer, they fired the parliamentarian, got another parliamentarian to give them the right answer. So the rules can't apply for corporations and one set of rules, and then there's another set of rules when it comes to poor and low wealth people. And that's why we're saying, even to Democrats, don't play the reconciliation game. That only takes a simple majority. 51 votes can even overturn what the parliamentarian says. Let's be real about this. People turned out to vote, and it's time for this to happen. Lastly, in the New Deal, people lied. The New Deal people said to Roosevelt that minimum wage was going to break the country. You know what Roosevelt said to them? He said, any business that doesn't want to pay people a minimum wage does not belong in America. That's how frank Roosevelt was. He said, you don't have a right to exist in this country if you don't want to pay people a basic minimum wage. And so we know 57 years ago, at the March on Washington, Martin Luther King called for $2 an hour minimum wage, which would be $15 today. Everybody a few weeks ago, all the politicians were saying, let's follow Dr. King. Let's hear Dr. King's message of love, where you can't hear his message of love without hearing the love and the justice connected together. We also know, as I said earlier, that as Saru, I like the way you put it. For 100 years, it took us from $0 to $2. But from the beginning, we've been 0 to 400 years for tip workers to get to 210 and some change, and for other workers to get to 725. We can't wait another 400 years, 40 years, or 4 years. We really need it to happen now. And we also know that we saw Trump give trillions to the wealthy corporations. We cannot watch folk go backwards. To go backwards on this would be morally indefensible, constitutionally inconsistent, and economically insane. And we cannot address racial equity if we do not address the minimum wage of $15. Now, there's no such thing as racial equity where you just address police reform and prison, but you don't address the issue of economic justice. And if you address economic justice, guess what? It helps Black people and white people and brown people and Latino people. It helps everybody. Everybody in, nobody out. Everybody in, nobody out. Lastly, this is the coalition that the aristocracy and the greedy always fear. When people, regardless of their race, their color, their creed, their sexuality, their disability, come together to fight, to change the narrative, to demand, and to vote. Let us stay together. Let us stay together on all these issues, especially this, Saru. Let us stay together. Mary Kay, let us stay together. Work, Liz, let us stay together. Fight for 15, let us stay together. Let us push. No need to play about it. We don't have but one season. My grandmama used to say, work while it is day because the night comes. She got that out of the Bible. And Isaiah 10 says, woe unto those who legislate evil and rob the poor of their rights and make women and children their prey. We have to act like we have one shot on this, one shot. Tomorrow is not promised, 60 seconds or 1 minute. Our whole life is in it. The issue is, what are we going to do with what we have now? It's time to push with every non-violent tool at our exposure. At our exposure. To our friends, we must demand courage. To our adversaries, we must say, get back, because we can't take any more attacks on our lives. But what we cannot do is rest for 1 minute. We know every battle, if we fight, we win. If we don't fight, we can't win. And so it's time for us to fight together with every ounce of truth, every call, every push, every political persuasion, every voice, every pulpit, every street corner, everywhere. It's time for us to push. We committed the Poor People's Campaign. We are together for this as we are together with all others. And by the way, I just had a revelation. And I've been thinking about it, Liz. I'm sorry I didn't tell you. I've been sitting here. I've been praying. I've been crying. So I want to say this today. Pamela, tell the folk of West Virginia, y'all set it up next Monday. I'm coming to West Virginia. It's time to go to West Virginia, help y'all put some pressure there. I'm coming to West Virginia. I'm going to put my mask on double way. I talked to my team. They said they can drive one way. We can do it in 1 day. We're going to be protected. We're going to have something major in West Virginia next week. So y'all figure it out. Let's figure it out. I'm going to try to get the shot this week because my time has come up. But listen, I ain't crying no more. I'm tired of crying. I'm sitting here crying today. And it's time for us to stand again. I'm not coming to lift William Barber. I'm coming to draw the media to you all so that you all, your voices can be lifted. And you can say to Manchin, it's time. We're going to help him be the best senator. He better than he ever thought he could be. We're going to help him. We're going to help him. And my grandmama said, we're going to help him. We're going to help him. So God bless you all. This is Tomorrow Monday. We'll be back at it, Liz, next Monday. Liz, let's talk about this. I'm sorry sometimes I speak in the Holy Ghost. I just get inspiration. But you know, I can't waste no more tears. I'm too old to waste tears. If I'm going to cry about it, I might as well fight about it. And so let's go. Let's stay together, forward together, not one step
back.
Forward together, not one step back. Thank you so much, Reverend Barbara, Reverend Liz, Mary Kay, all the speakers from all over the country. I was asked to just remind everybody to call your senator at the link on your screen and email your Congress members at the link on your screen. We need everybody. We need you to forward that link all over the country and get everybody to contact their senators and Congress members to make this happen now. We've got 135,000 workers who've signed on to a petition representing tens of millions of workers across the country and hundreds of small businesses who are standing with us, together with Reverend Barbara, Reverend Liz, Mary Kay, and everybody One Fair Wage, SEIU, and Poor People's Campaign represent. Thank you so, so much, everybody. Call your senators, contact your senators now. We can do this. Get it across the finish line. Thank you.
Thank you, Saru.
Thank
Everybody
you.
in, nobody left behind. Forward together, not one step back.
That's right. Not one step back. Thank you.